Welcome to John's Corner, where our star reporter Jonathan always lands on his feet. He's a hard-hitting reporter who isn't afraid to throw a punch or to take one. He's always investigating the issues that others shy away from, uncovering even the biggest of scandals, while learning every secret he can. Here on John's Corner.
What's up, Blue Nation? Welcome back to John's Corner, land of the corner made out of Johns. Yes, it's where all the Johns come to John. I have no idea what I'm talking about. Let's get on with the show. Today we have some really cool, exciting news. Some news that will literally change your lives. Will make every bad, negative thing in your life feel positive and uplifting. It will literally save your life. Okay, maybe it won't, but it is still exciting. Spider-Man is coming back to the MCU. I know, I'm excited too, guys. I'm excited too. Apparently Sony and Disney, stopped wasting all of our times and got a deal together. And apparently it's the deal that Disney originally pitched, which I guess wasn't 50-50, it was 25. They'll put in 25 and take out 25, and apparently Sony finally said yes. But it's seeming like there's a caveat, because now Spider-Man can go and be in the Sonyverse as well. Which, I mean, I'm fine with. It's sub-canon levels, just like the Marvel TV shows were canon, but weren't Kevin Feige's canon, and now it seems like these Spider-Man movies are canon, but not Kevin Feige's canon. It's fine. I'm all for it. As long as we get a resolution to Spider-Man being outed by J. Jonah Jameson, I'm good. And he's going to be in 2 movies in the MCU. His own standalone movie, and then it's seeming like it's going to be the next Avengers movie, New Avengers, or whatever they end up calling it. And he'll be written out of that to explain why he won't be in future movies. I'm guessing it probably won't be death, because why would Sony agree to that? Unless it's the bring in Miles, which I'd be all for. Although if it were up to me, and I was these companies, I'd be thinking long term. Look how fast those first 10 years went. And you keep aging Peter Parker up. And before you know it, you have him in college. You have him be a little worldly. 10, 15 years from now, you let Sony do whatever they want with the character. 10, 15 years from now, you get the character back, or Sony sells to Apple, or whatever happens, and you get the characters back. You then make you bring Spider-Man back into the fold, give him his own movie, then you give him a sequel, and in the sequel you kill him off, and that's when you bring Miles in. Because Peter Parker dying as a teenager, he's not really going to be that heroic a figure to anybody. Give him some time to breathe and live. If you're losing the character anyways, by the time you get him back, you'll need new, fresh cops. 10, 15 years from now, you'll be looking for you'll be looking for Generation 3 of the Marvel characters in there. Make Miles the center figure. I think that'd be cool. I'd be down for that. But, I mean, hey. We do need the rest of the champions out there, since we are getting Miss Marvel, which I'm beyond excited for. Other MCU news. Apparently there's a rumor going around that when the X-Men finally come into the MCU proper, they're going to call them the Mutants, which I know was Stan Lee's original name for them, but no. I'm using all 0% stock I have at Disney to veto that option. Just call them the X-Men. Just get over yourselves and call them the X-Men. They are the X-Men. Call them the X-Men. Dear God, man. They're God Niles. Just whoever came up with calling them the Mutants, no. Just stop. You're done. Retire. Go live in a cave somewhere. No. Alright, so let's jump over to our distinguished competition now. DC Comics. So we finally get word whether or not Lex Luthor will come into the Crisis on Infinite Earths, and the answer is no. Lex Luthor, of course, from Smallville, not the Lex Luthor from Small Girl. Lex Luthor from Supergirl, who was amazing, by the way. But apparently he tweeted out that DC did reach out to him, but they didn't offer him a script. They didn't offer him a schedule. They didn't tell him even what it was going to be about, and they're paying him almost nothing. So he said no. Which you can understand why he said no. You can understand why he was like, I don't want to be a part of that. What am I getting paid? I don't know what I'm shooting. I'm agreeing to something. I don't know what it is. it's completely understandable why he would say no. But at the same time, you kind of understand their point too. Because what they're doing is unprecedented. No one's ever done it before. And they're trying to bring in all these different threads from all these different shows and tie them all together. And they have to write not one, but believe it's 5 different shows crossing over for 5 different scripts. And they need to know who's on board, who's going to be a part of it, who's not, so that they know what they need to write and what they need to prepare for. And so until they get the yeses, why are they going to add a character into the script? You know? So to me, it seems like they're probably trying to get all the yeses they can. Then they'll go write the scripts. Then they'll base the schedule off of that script. As for the not paying part, yeah, that would probably, I could see why you'd be annoyed at that and say no. But we are getting Smallville represented with Lois and Clark, so I'm still excited. This thing is going to be like the most epic comic book thing ever. And we just had Endgame. I think this might actually top it. Because what DC is doing is just, it's unprecedented. No one's ever done that in the history of television. It's genius. DC movies, take note at the small screen. They're doing your shit better than you. Alright, let's pimp some stuff. If you guys know the TESD boys, tell them Steve Dave. 2 guys from Comic Man and that Impractical Joker. They have a Patreon account. Now, I'm not pimping the whole Patreon account, but you should subscribe. But they do different podcasts on there, and then some videos, web shows. And one of the web shows is called Frank Five's Rewind. It's kind of like our own 90 Kids Guide, but better, which I probably shouldn't say. But they do, at the end of every episode, with reenactments of scenes from the shows they talk about. It is the most genius thing ever, and that alone is worth every dime you pay for the Patreon. So if you haven't checked it out, just check it out. Try it for 1 month. You'll fall in love. But I just watched the newest episode. It was about Land of the Lost, a show I've never even seen. But now I'm like, I need to find this show and watch it. So if you can, check out Frank Five's Rewind on Tell Him Steve Dave's Patreon. You will not be sorry. But now let's check out some of our own mini shows. What say we? Thank you, Jonathan. And today the movie we are talking about is 12 Angry Men. Now, I'm talking about the OG 12 Angry Men from 1957. And I know what you're all saying. But Jonathan, it's so old. This movie's in black and white. I don't watch old movies. Grow up. Go find it. Put it on. Watch it. It is one of the most genius movies I've ever seen. The whole thing takes place practically in one room, just the back room where the jury deliberating. It starts, you see the courthouse and stuff like that, and you work your way through the courthouse, and then you see the judge stand up and send the jury away to deliberate, and that's where the movie takes place. And it all takes place in that room, almost real-time-esque. Not quite real-time, but you get that sense to it. And everybody thinks that it's about this Hispanic kid who killed his dad. Everybody thinks he's guilty. Except for one guy who doesn't even say that he thinks the kid's innocent. He's just like, well, we don't know. Let's sit here and talk about it. And after we have a conversation and we find that this kid is guilty, I'll vote guilty. But let's have a discussion and not just condemn this dude to prison. And so they start talking about it, and everyone's against him. It's 11 guys yelling at one guy who's really, it should have been called 11 Angry Men and One Unnaturally Calm Man, because he's really chill. But one by one, he starts picking apart the case of the prosecution and convincing everybody that the kid's innocent. And it's so well crafted. Like I said, it all takes place basically in one room, but you never get bored. You never feel confined by that tiny space because there's always so much going on. And I'm not talking about like giant action pieces like you see in movies now. It's all character driven. Every character is so well defined and there's such great character beats. And as the characters talk and grow, you learn more and more about them. So much so that the ending of the movie, the last juror who's the holdout, they set up him coming around way in like the beginning of the movie, and then at the end of the movie when he comes around, they never explain why he came around, but if you watch the movie and pay attention the whole time, you'll put it together yourself. It's a little cute, but they don't, like, I feel like if they remade the movie now, and it was apparently made in I think 97, but I haven't seen it. I really want to. I want to see the remake, see how it stacks up. But If they remade it now, they would have a whole 5-minute conversation about why he changed his mind and paying back to what was set up earlier. But back then, it's a little shot of a picture, and you're like, oh, and it all makes sense. It doesn't talk down to the audience. It's intellectual equals who can comprehend basic story beats, which seems so elementary now, but no movie does that. They over-explain everything. The amount of exposition in movies just gets higher and higher. It's perfection. Now, this movie was directed by Sidney Lumet and written by Reginald Rose, and it's truly is a masterpiece. And I mean, not only was it remade, but other shows have taken that concept of a jury who is so convinced someone's guilty, except for one person who stands up to the other jury members and slowly turns them away from it. But as far as I can tell, this is the original. It's the one that did the idea first. The first time I personally was exposed to this idea was an episode of Veronica Mars did it. It's just, and the Veronica Mars episode is really good. You should definitely check it out. But I don't know. I loved it. I thought it was genius. But anyways, till next time, I'm Jonathan. This is Nostalgia 100. Thank you for having us, Jonathan. Deuce. Well, that really sounds like a great movie, doesn't it? Now let's say we find out about some TV shows. Thank you, Jonathan. I'm your host, the other Jonathan. Welcome back to a 90 Kids Guide to Television. And today's show is kind of a newer one. Actually, it just came out this year. It's called Nosferatu, spelled with a 4 and a 2 because why not? If you're gonna have to spell a show, why not spell it with numbers? Why not? Nah, but it's a show from AMC based on a book of the same name by Joe Hill. I haven't read the book, but the show is brilliant. It's about these people who are born with gifts, but it's not until they come across an object that kind of triggers the gift that they really learn it. Like our lead gets a dirt bike, and it leads her to a bridge that takes her to find whatever lost item she's looking for. And the villain is this guy who has this really kick-ass old car, and it allows him to bring people back to this hidden house that he has, where he basically feeds on kids and turns them into little demonic monsters. Nosferatu, of course, is one of the original vampire movies, or I think the original vampire movie, when they stole the rights to Dracula and went to France and filmed it. So it's exciting. Like it's cool that they're doing a twist off of that character and off of that concept, and it's just so well done. It's so dark and twisted and just weird to say after those, but fun. It's a fun show. It has a cool concept, and it's a new way to get into both mythology and kind of superheroes, kind of all rolled into one. And a coming of age tale too. Is this girl who's just trying to cope with what her life has become, and while there's a supernatural aspect and kids going missing and trying to find out where these missing kids have gone, it's also this poor girl who's dealing with the fact that her father walked out on her, and she's trying to cope with that emotional baggage. And it's just, I don't know, it's a brilliant show. They apparently already renewed it for season 2. I am beyond excited for season 2. So if you haven't had a chance yet, you should definitely check out Nosferatu. But till next time, I'm Jonathan. This is a 90 Kids Guide to Television. Thanks, John. Let me just say, I've seen that show, and it's amazing. Now, why don't we go back to the long, long time ago year of 1944 and learn about some comics. Thank you, Jonathan. This is A Year in Comics. I'm your host, Jonathan, and we have an exciting year for you this year, 1944. And why is it exciting, you ask? Because in the great year of 1944, a man named Max Gaines started a little comic company known as EC Comics, Entertainment Comics, as it were, where they mainly made educational comic books for kids. Yeah, no, that doesn't sound really exciting. I was like, oh, that's right, because a few years later, he'd have a tragic accident, and his son would take over the company. When he's in charge, when his son is in charge, he stops making the educational comic books, and he starts making detective magazines, science fiction magazines, and horror comic books, such as Vault of Horrors and, Tales from the Crypt. EC Comics, the company that gave us Tales from the Crypt, got its start in 1944. Of course, by the end of the 50s, they got out of the comic book game altogether and created Mad Magazine, which, if you're a fan of Mad TV, you're welcome. These are the people who are responsible for that indirectly. So that alone makes it a really exciting year, because, I mean, if you're a fan of horror, like movies, TV shows, any of that, you gotta give it up to Tales from the Crypt. You gotta give it up to Tales from the Crypt. Like, that's some genre-defining stuff right there. And the HBO show was beyond amazing. And Demon Knight is one of the greatest movies ever made. We don't talk about the other movies. But Demon Knight, one of the greatest movies ever made. Over at Archie Comics, they changed their logo from the little shield to Archie's face. That's kind of cool. But while we're talking about movies, skipping over Archie altogether, Marvel put out, or Timely was still known, put out their first movie. Well, kind of, sort of. It was a serial. It was 15 parts long, but it was Captain America. Their first time being on film, Captain America, 1944. It's pretty exciting for a little funny mag, you know? At least back then. Nowadays, that's all that comes out, which I'm not complaining. I love it. But Miss America, who we talked about last episode, also got her own comic book, her own title this year. And in the second issue of that, a little-known character named Patsy Walker was first introduced. Now, if you're fans of the Netflix Marvel shows, you might know her as Hellcat. But yes, she predates most of Marvel. She came out in 1944, and she started in that book, and I think 45 is when she got her own. I think it's the next episode she'll get her own title, and will go on to be like a big romance teen character in the 40s and 50s before they brought her back as an Avenger years later. So it's exciting, you know. It's her first appearance. Someone who literally is in the MCU, you know. But yeah, some pretty cool stuff happened in 1944. So till next year in comics, I'm Jonathan. Give us legends. Thanks, Jonathan. Back to you. How about that? He is not picking sides at all. Not at all. He is so straight down the narrow about which comic book company he likes the most. It's that kind of integrity that makes us love him so much. But anyways, that's our show for today. I'm Jonathan. This is John's Corner. Till next time, give us legends.